Welcome to the Replenishing Life Project. 30 days to recover from burnout and reclaim your vitality. With your hosts, Morgan B. and Lucy Ann Chard.
Welcome to the Replenishing Life Project. I'm Morgan B. and I'm here with my co-host, Lucy Ann Chard. Hi, Lucy.
Hey everyone.
We're very excited today to introduce our guest, Christina Ambubuyog. Christina is an intuitive consultant, spiritual teacher, artist, and creator of I Love Intuition. For nearly 15 years, she's been teaching ambitious spiritual seekers and heart-centered leaders how to strengthen and trust their intuition, unleash their creativity, and fully express their soul's purpose. Hi, Christina. Thank you so much for being a part of this project with us. Thank you. Welcome.
Hi, thank you. I'm really excited to be here. So thanks for the invitation.
Awesome. So I just want to ask you if you could tell our audience more about you and the work that you are creating in the world.
Yeah. So like as you mentioned, I'm an intuitive consultant, also an artist, teacher, and for a very long time now, I've really been doing a lot of work around intuition development. So helping mainly women, although I do have some handful of men that like to come in here and there, but teaching them how to really trust their intuition, trust their inner voice. But not only just trust it, but how do they develop it? Like, how do they strengthen it? To me, it's really like just like this muscle that they can tap into and make stronger. And so I teach that along with really helping and guiding and mentoring people to express their soul purpose. How do they align with their unique gifts and bring that out into the world, whether that is through their own business or I have a lot of like corporate clients who, want to kind of leverage a lot of their own soul's wisdom in their work, in what they're doing. And then of course, just all around life, right? Like how can we stay spiritually connected through the various ups and downs and challenges of life? It's very easy for us to kind of become disconnected or become frazzled or become overwhelmed and lose sight of what matters and lose sight of our own guidance and our connection to spirit. So really helping people deepen their spirituality and deepen their own ability to trust in their soul's wisdom as well. So.
Amazing. That sounds so exciting. I can't wait to hear more. So Christina, before we go into that, I'd like it if you could share with us your experience of burnout, of working with the healing of burnout. So share some of your story with us.
Yeah. So, and like, I feel like I'm just coming out of like a massive wave of burnout. And I think that, well, I think number one, I'm a really good worker, right? Like I think that's just kind of in my nature. Partly I think is because, I'm a Taurus and I like to just do things and I like to create. But also because what's interesting, I've had like a palm, not a palm reading, but like a fingerprint analysis reading done. And and within my hands shows that like I'm a very like studious worker. And so there's this kind of this natural nature of me where it's just like I like to do and work and like, I like to build things and create. And I also leads to burnout. So there's like this really kind of balance in me that's just like there's this natural tendency to do a lot. And then also because I love what I do, like I love helping people, like I get excited and it brings joy and so much connection that there's a burnout in that as well. Like if we're not really taking care of ourselves or managing our energy in that way, it's easy for me to just kind of do and find so much joy in all the doing and helping and serving that it's you just kind of forget like, oh God, I'm exhausted, like, or, oh, like, well, what about me? Like who's supporting me through all of this? So it's been an interesting process of just like, well, I moved a lot in the past couple of years, and we moved like 4 times in like 2 years.
Oh, wow.
And across different states and different places and all these things. And so I think that kind of triggered a lot of this upheaval from, kind of this like very basis foundation of life, like knowing where things are and like having a community and friends and just like even knowing like where you go get your nails done, or just like, this is my eyebrow lady, you know what I mean? Like just all of those things that tend to create this normalcy and this sort of homeostasis within your life that actually is very supportive. And then when a lot of that gets sort of thrown out the window, like for me, and then like having to deal with like all this moving and stuff, and like trying to find like a new hairdresser or trying to find this, and like not having any friends around locally or anything like that, like it totally led to massive burnout, and like trying to run my business and serving people and supporting them and showing up and marketing and like all of the things. And so, and it was like, like it hit me very hard. I mean, it was kind of gradual, but like there was like one day where I'm like, okay, I'm done. Like, I think I'm kind of at my wit's end here. So it was, it's kind of like, it can come on very quietly. Yeah. But then if you're not paying attention to it, it just like hits you like a ton of bricks.
Yeah, that's huge.
Yeah, that's I really want to touch on that point that you mentioned at the beginning, was the fact that you can still burn out while being in your joy, like doing what you love to do. It doesn't necessarily have to be something you hate doing or you don't like doing, or you're in a job you hate and all that stuff, and there's burnout. So you can still experience that burnout when you're living your purpose and you're doing your thing. And also too, I'd like to talk to you more about, you mentioned how you were moving quite often, and that support system, like, needing to sort of find community again. And could you speak more to that, or more about that, of like the importance of having that support, that community around you, and how that might help you to recover?
Yeah, absolutely. So, it's really interesting. There was one time where it's like, here, let me kind of preface this. Like, I was in Vegas for 11 years. I'm really born and raised in Chicago. But Vegas really was a home for me, so it definitely was a place that like I built a lot of community there. And like when we left, you don't really realize, at least for myself, like I didn't realize actually like, wow, I had this like really strong community there.
Yeah.
And because I also have like a strong kind of global community too. Like I have a lot of friends who just don't live where I live, and like I talk to every day, or like I have a prayer partner every day. So, and she lives in Connecticut, you know what I mean? So there's like, I have a lot of connections that I am regularly connected to, but aren't locally in my area. And so I also always feel so connected at the same time. Like, even if I'm not seeing someone physically, like I still feel like, oh, I got a community around me. But then when I left Vegas, and like, I remember kind of after we have moved and we've decided we're going to settle in Phoenix. I'm in Phoenix, and I'm like walking around. I went to the mall to go pick up something, and I'm walking around. I'm like, oh my God, nobody knows me here. like I was like, holy crap. Like, I have some connections here, like at the time when I first came, but really like, I was just like, whoa, like I'm not going to run into anyone I know. I'm not I just can't call up a girlfriend and be like, hey, you want to go to Target with me? Let's go on a run and get some stuff and go to go get a coffee or whatever, It's just all of those little things that I think for me, I took for granted, quite frankly. It's just like, just having that immediate connection that's there. And so that like kind of really was an eye-opening for me, where I'm like, oh, Yeah, because at the time I was still very much connected to people via text or like FaceTime, or it's like I have, you know, my accountability partner who's in Seattle. And so it's like we talk like twice a week. So it's just all of these things that happen. And so it's like, oh yeah, I'm totally connected to my community, you know, but then I'm like, oh, but physically, like I have no one around me. So it's like, that's so important, because I think that because we're in this time where, you know, like Lucy, you're in the UK, Morgan's already in Canada, you know what I mean? It's just like, wow, we get to connect, you know, through technology. But then sometimes we're missing out on that physical connection and that being. So I think that that's really, really important when it comes to being burnt out, you know, especially if you tend to be someone who burns out and then goes quiet, which is me. Like I burn out. I'm not like a public processor. I'm not a, you know, let me like, oh, this is what I'm going through on Facebook. You know what I mean? Like I'm a very like private, internal, tell a couple people, you know what I'm saying? Like, but I need to like kind of go through things quietly in my own space and time. So my tendency is to pull back, to go quiet. And I forget to, hey, reach out to that person, or I need to get out of the house and do something, you know, like, because I'm already a homebody. So it's like, you know, this is all of the things that come together and don't really become very supportive when you're going through burnout. So I think that's really important to make sure that, especially if you have a tendency to again, go quiet or retreat, that actually isn't always good for you when you're burnt out.
I 100% resonate with what you're saying. I'm a retreater myself, and that really resonates. And I think for me, you know, what you're saying there speaks to two things. It speaks to the difference between retreating and withdrawing. You know, when you feel like you're actually in a space where you need to withdraw yourself from society, that's when I think perhaps it can get a little isolating. And you know, we know from experience, certainly from this project and our own experience, that being in isolation when you're burnt out is one of the worst things, feeling isolated. So let's talk a little bit more about the steps that you took to get yourself out of this loneliness, or out of this place.
Yep. Oh, and I just want to say, I love that, like withdrawing versus retreating. Like that's absolutely true. And the feeling of isolation is just so detrimental to our sort of this, I think the human nature of wanting to love and be connected. And so that's very, very important to make sure that we, like, you know, are mindful of that. So for me, I think what started to happen was I noticed that, like, I did not want to get out of bed. And I'm a morning person. Like, I mean, from like to the bone, you know, like, I mean, I was like a kindergartner waking up at 5 a.m., taking a shower, being the first, like sitting down and like ready to eat breakfast. Like I'm like a total morning person. And so what I noticed was, like, I would just like not want to get up, like, which is not like me. Like if I'm like in bed at 9 a.m., I think the day is gone. Like I'm like, the day is gone. I can't do anything. It's 9. Like, I'll be like mortified. So when I'm in bed at like 11 a.m., being completely like, I'm cool. Like that's not like me. You know, it wasn't. And I think too, something that is important, because I think there's a lot of things about like burnout where you know, it's like there's these typical things like, oh, I'm exhausted or whatever, but it's just like, you know, there's a lot of ways that I think it shows up that you may not even realize that it is. So I think for me, it was being like, okay, like this isn't normal for me.
Mm-hmm.
So when I started doing that a little bit more than I was comfortable with, I was like, okay, I'm going to go get myself a therapist because I am like, I got things in my mind, and even though I have friends and people I can call and process and do all that, I also know for myself, it's not their job either, if that makes sense, right? Like yes, I'm very blessed to have friendships who are also like coaches and, you know, spiritual healers and all of those things. But I think that there's a time and place for when you know that you need different kind of support and not just your friends.
Yeah.
And because I also do not want to put it on them to have to constantly support me either, when I know that I need this constant level of support that's just not like, oh girl, this is what's going on. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think there's only times I can cry to a friend. I think for myself before I'm sick of myself. You know what I mean? So it's like, so that's when I was like, okay, let me go find someone I can chat with who's really like, that's their job. Like their job is to sit there and talk to me and process things. And so I did. I went through a couple different people. You know, I think that, you know, finding a good therapist is sort of like, you know, you're dating, right? Like you kind of have to see what's like, do you resonate with that person? Can they really hold space for you in the way that you really want it? And so, yeah, so I did some of that. Gosh, there were so many different things that I was doing. I did go through physical therapy. So I was having a lot of back problems, which I think was a result of feeling that burnout and disconnection. And I do have like a metal rod in my spine already. So, but like, I mean, like my low back was really like, whoa, what's going on? So I did go through physical therapy too, which actually helped a lot. And that also got me up and moving, right? Like, it's like I went twice a week. I went for about 4 months, I think. And so I was like, you know, it's like, I'm up. I can't just lay in bed all day. You know what I mean? It's like, I got to, and I would make the appointments at like 8 a.m. because I was just like, okay, gotta go, gotta get up. And then I became friends with everyone there, and it was just fun. Like, it was like, oh, everyone, it's like, you just go into these new places and you're just kind of like, okay, I don't feel so like isolated in my home and all that. So that was really, really helpful. Another thing that I also did was I started seeing a classical homeopathy practitioner. So, and I've had homeopathy before, like through my naturopath, but like the guy that I'm seeing, Ben Taiti, if I can, homeopathy care is the name of his practice, but he is local here in Phoenix, but he also works with people all around the world. But he, like, I went to him because I was like, I'm exhausted. Like, I'm tired. Like, I don't have like zero energy. I don't want to do anything. And yeah, and he found, like, we worked on a remedy and we found a remedy. And so I've been doing that for the past year. Actually, I have an appointment with him, like, not next week, but I think the following week. And it's been, I'm going less and less to see him. Right. So like every time it's like, I mean, he's just like, you're like 99.9% like there. And I feel it, like, from when I first saw him to now, it's like, I'm like, oh my God, like, I can't believe the difference in how I feel. So that was one that was really, really important. Yeah. So those were some of the different things that I did to get myself out of my head, connect with people, tune into my body, and just get support, you know, get different kind of support. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that with us. That's amazing. Those are very good tools and resources for other people to check out. I mean, yes, therapy does have, definitely is very beneficial. You know, sometimes it's things aren't going to improve with just like the energy healing, and sometimes they will. It really depends on where you're at. And I feel like each burnout situation is unique in how a person gets there and how it feels for them and so on. So, I wanted to ask you if you felt that your intuition got a little foggy or compromised while you were burned out, and how you connected with it during that time, or if you did or not, or what did it look like for you?
Gosh, that's a really great question. I love that. I wouldn't say, well, it's kind of not black and white. So let me think about this for a second, because there's ways that, yes, it got compromised, but there's ways that it was like still really strong, right? So when it came to me still supporting my clients, like I can still tune in, be on, like show up, I'm here. Yes. But then when it came to me, it was, I think what happened was I was so depleted and exhausted and sort of like uninterested, right? That my intuitive guidance was, it was almost just like, I was kind of like in this place of like, I hear you, but I'm also like, I'm just not interested in you right now. You know what I mean? Like, don't tell me to go to the therapist, okay? Like, I got this, all right? Like, there's just so much, I think, that's going on sort of like chemically and emotionally and spiritually, that it all gets sort of muddy, that when that intuitive voice is like, hey, let's do this, either you're just kind of like, number one, I ain't got no energy to listen to you, so don't tell me what to do. And then, or it's literally like trauma responses just kind of going a little bit too haywire, that you don't really know what to do next. Like for me, again, like the I'm just gonna like kind of like isolate myself, because it's just like, this is just way too much. That sort of like, I'm frozen. I'm in overwhelm. I'm frozen. I don't know what to do. Like overrides my ability to take action on the guidance, even though I hear it. Even though I hear it. So, and I think it took, I would say it was like, there's a lot of guidance that's coming in. And it was just like the little things like, okay, I'm going to go see a therapist because I'm just laying around a little bit too long here, so it's, though, there's still the action that was coming forth, but again, it was like, I feel like I was fighting myself a lot too, with that. So yes, it was a little bit, I wouldn't say it's foggy. It's just, I was just resisting.
Okay. Yeah.
I was resisting, or I was too frozen and too exhausted, that I was just like, just kind of feels really good to lay around today.
Yeah.
But not healthy, right? Like that's not healthy. Like it wasn't healthy either. So but I love that question. But here's the thing though, like even in hindsight, my intuition never left me. Right?
Yeah.
Right.
Like, even though I was like, I don't want to hear you today. Don't talk to me. It hasn't left me, like spirit never left me. So, or my connection with spirit never left me. So even if I was feeling real like, oh my God, I don't want to do anything, I just want to lay in bed all day today. Like there was still this part of me that was like, you're going to be okay. You're going to be okay. And I feel like that is a cultivation of my connection with source, connection with spirit, my inner voice too, that like kept me in this place of like, you don't want to hear yourself right now, but you gotta get up. Like you gotta talk to someone. You gotta do those things, And I don't know that if like I didn't have such a strong like relationship with my soul and with spirit, like, could I give in to that part of me?
Mm.
You know, like that's scary to think about, because I think that a lot of people in the world do give into that, right? They give into the listlessness, they give into the exhaustion, they give into the isolation. They're just like, they completely lose that connection. So
That's huge.
There. Yeah.
That's huge. And, certainly from experience, what you're saying really resonates with me, because from experience, I felt, I love what you're saying there, that your intuition never abandoned you. I think that is such a comforting thing to hear and to know for someone who's, currently experiencing burnout, or perhaps thinking, oh, maybe I'm burned out, is to really know in your soul that your intuition will never leave you. It's there with you always. And so aligned with that, how do you begin to, you talked earlier about how you can develop your intuition, your psychic abilities as like a muscle. So how would you do that?
So my number one way is through meditation. I know not everybody likes to meditate, but I'm like the biggest advocate for it, because it requires for you to go within. And when we are so inundated with so much noise and so much media and so many of even just our own thoughts, it's hard to really discern, like, what's my inner knowing versus all of the other things that are going on around me. So when you have this nice meditation practice and learning to tune in, learning to just not always necessarily, yes, quieting your mind, but also just kind of discerning, like, okay, what is this voice versus that voice, right? Like, oh, I'm hearing this voice come in. Oh, that's not even my thought. Like, that's my mom telling me I need to do this, this, and that, instead of like what I'm feeling called to do, right? So it's that sort of practice of kind of quieting, going within, learning how to tune into the body, because the body has so many signals. There's so much wisdom in the physical body. And just having that kind of nice practice, or just gateway to really, like, to me, like, meditations is like a nice gateway into our soul. It's just like, just closing my eyes right now, it's just, I think like, yeah. And even it's the act of closing our eyes, right? Like, just the act of closing our eyes, like, I'm not seeing anything. Like, I don't have anything around me to distract me. Like, I'm literally forced to just come right here.
Beautiful.
And that's the thing too. It's like another reason why I'm like such a big fan of meditation to develop your intuition, is because, our intuitive guidance always happens in the present moment.
Yeah.
And we get it in the here and now. And so we have to be here. We have to be home physically in the body to receive that guidance. And so meditation practice helps with that presence, helps with us coming home, helps with us understanding the signals of our body, helps when I'm knowing, like, oh, my mind is going in all these different directions. Let me call myself back so I can hear myself. It's like the guidance, it's really in the here and now. So that's really like one of the biggest things, like with one of my programs that I have, Ignite Your Intuition, it's all through meditation. Basically, it's like meditation tools. How do you sort of discern different energies within yourself, learning to access the different languages of intuition, right? So like the 4 different clairs, our clairvoyance, claircognizance, clairaudience, and then our clairsentience. So that's another way that we can develop, is really learning our sort of unique style that we receive intuitive guidance, Like I'm a natural clairvoyant. I see images. I see kind of visions, if you will. And another person might be a feeler, right? They get intuitive guidance through what they feel. They walk into a room and they can feel the energy of the room. And so we can definitely heighten those senses by knowing like, oh, okay, I'm feeling this here, or I'm seeing these images in my mind. So there are some different ways that sort of like we can like develop our guidance.
Oh yeah, that's great. Thank you. Because I was going to ask you, because you say that you believe everyone is intuitive.
Yes.
And so that was great. Thank you that you talked about the different types of intuition and that people could experience them in different ways. And so when someone meditates, do they have to just sit on the ground and close their eyes, or can someone do different forms of meditation, like maybe connecting in nature, or are there other ways to strengthen that if someone is sort of really reluctant to sit and do a traditional meditation type thing?
Oh, right. Yes. Yeah, absolutely. So one of the process of which I teach meditation is sort of this active guided meditation, right? Okay. Meaning, we're meditating, but we're doing things through that process, right? So for example, like, very simple meditation is just like learning how to ground yourself, right? Learning how to connect your body into the earth, learning how to ground my body, learning how to release energies through my body. And we do that through meditation. So that's sort of an active guided meditation versus like a meditation that's much more of a passive, and I'm just sitting and I'm kind of watching my thoughts and just, sort of breathing, which also is so super, very, it's very helpful. But when I'm teaching like intuition development, it is through sort of active tools to learn your energy and energy management. Now, if for people who are opposed or they have a hard time sitting, there are different ways in which they can, like, it's funny, I just did this, I just did a video on connecting with their intuition through nature. And so and I was out in Flagstaff and I just like kind of filmed this video. So it's like nature's like a huge place where, at least for myself, and I know a lot of people, that they get a lot of intuitive guidance from. Yeah. Because we tune into the rhythm of the earth. We get to slow down a little bit. We're outside in nature. We're grounding, like we're earthing, right? Like we're connecting in with the ions and like all the goodness of the earth energy. So there is that place where we can do that mindful walking. I'm being present with my steps and being present with the sounds around me. I'm, kind of doing that. And then sometimes people get intuitive guidance, right? Like they're in the shower, right? Like how many people like to always talk about like, oh my God, I get this great idea in the shower, right? Or the shower is like where I get all my ideas. Yeah. And it's, I think, and really it's just that clear, to me, they're like more claircognizant, right? So they're more like this active, they have to be doing something, or it's like, and all of a sudden it's like this idea just like pops up into their head. And then, the shower is very, again, it's like a sacred space for everyone. We usually shower by ourselves, right? We've got the energy of the water cleansing us. It tends to be something that we kind of do. Well, at least for myself, I don't know how everybody else showers, but it's like, you're doing the same thing over. It's like, I'm washing my arm, got to do my shampoo. You know what I mean? It's like, we're doing things very repetitively. We almost don't have to think about it. So we can kind of go off into a little bit of like a la la land, dream space, imaginative space, where we can sort of connect in with our guidance at that time, which is why I think people are like, ding, they get like these great ideas while they're in the shower, because they're just doing something that's so repetitive and almost a little bit mindless, if you will. And they're also by themselves, like kind of in this enclosed sort of space too. Yeah, so there are definitely different ways that people can tap in when it comes to sort of active types of meditation, like walking or even drawing. There's also, gosh, I don't even know why the term just like left my head, where you're writing and you're channel writing.
Oh yeah.
Gosh, do you know what I'm talking about? Like,
Yeah.
I can't even think of the term right now.
Free writing.
But
Yeah.
like a free writing, right?
Yeah.
Like you just free write and you can channel and get guidance through that. Yep. Yeah. So there are definitely different ways that the guidance can come in.
Amazing.
For sure.
Amazing. So it's so funny what you're saying about the shower, because I always joke and say that because I love to take, like a nice hot bath, but I find that the bath is the place where I get my inspiration, where my intuition really kicks in. And so I keep a journal with me next to the bath so I can write down ideas, kind of just comes in. So that's quite funny what you were saying there. It's true.
I love that.
Yeah, let's talk about, so you say something so beautiful on your website. You talk about creativity as a doorway to your soul. One of the themes of this project is reclaiming your vitality, and I want to hear more about what you have to say about doing that through creativity.
Yeah. So like I've always been an artist since I was young. And to me, creativity there's a lot of freedom within that space, right? And when we're tapping into like our sort of divine self-expression and just our ability to kind of like really, really just create and do and use this like physical body temple as a channel for creation, whatever that is. So to me, creativity necessarily doesn't always have to be art. Like I teach it through the aspect of art, but it could be dance, it could be, baking, cooking, creating, sculpting, anything where we're just kind of putting idea into like third dimensional form, right? But there is something to say when we're really looking at like the arts as a whole. Yeah. Because you're tapping into right side of your brain, you're tapping into the other part, like the imaginative, creative, like sort of expressive part of you. And when you're doing that, you are really, to me, it's like you're really opening up to this sort of the unseen realms, right? The otherworldly parts of us, the ability to just kind of imagine like worlds or ideas or situations or sound or whatever that is, and it's just like it's just free, right? And I think just as as spirit as a whole is just free, right? So when we can tap into that part of ourselves that we're just kind of like, wow, I can just really, really just be myself and just do whatever it is that I want. Yeah. Then we kind of break down interior walls within ourselves. We notice where we're holding back, right? Like if I teach like a lot of painting classes and stuff, and so there's a lot of self-doubt that comes up for people, when we're doing like these intuitive type painting classes. And so it's like, by doing that, there's the intuitive creative part of you that's just like, yeah, just put on that purple paint and just let it go all across everywhere. And then the rational side of you, or the part of that, the maybe even fear or self-doubt, or it's just like, is that gonna look good? But is purple gonna go with the red and the blue over here? But I wanted it to go this way, right? Like, but I really I thought I was gonna paint this. Yeah. But it's just like, no, but it's like, but this wants to come through, right? So you learn how to sort of negotiate and dialogue with yourself and your soul, and sort of what wants to come through, and then what's saying no. Or not even saying no, but questioning that. Yeah. Right? Yeah. Like, I love that. Want to put the purple paint in yeah, like I want to put the purple paint in. But then it's like, it's interesting because it's like you really get to sort of break down those interior walls within yourself, those interior barriers, which also, you know, sort of breaks out the exterior barriers. Like, oh, well, where am I holding back in my life? Where am I not really letting myself put that workshop out there?
Yeah.
Or, you know, leave that relationship because I know that it's really, really not healthy for me. And so it's like there's this internal sort of growth that's happening through that creative process that can also create that sort of outer results in your world, because then now you're just like, oh yeah, I can see how I'm not letting myself fully listen and create and let the purple paint fly.
Yeah. Love it. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm definitely one of those people that you're talking about who has a hard time with like, I mean, every once in a while I'll sit down and I can, you know, if I wanted to paint or do something creative, I'll just go for it and just whatever shows up. For the majority of the time, it's very much a process of, ooh, well, this doesn't look good, or this needs to look better, or this needs to be different. Like all this, you know, self-criticism and self-judgment coming through. It's like so intense. And even Lucy and I were talking this morning about how, you know, we have such like harsher judgments on ourselves versus, you know, it's like, and then when we take a moment to, you know, get into alignment and you know, connect with our intuition and take that step forward, and it's like, and allow the pieces to fall where they may, or the purple paint to go where it wants to go, you know, it creates this beautiful moment. And it's not about being perfect or about having, you know, the best drawing or painting, or, you know, it's that process, like you said, of, oh yeah, getting in touch with creativity inside and what wants to come out. What wants to be shared. That's so awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this painting behind me right here that I painted, like that started off as trees.
Wow.
So I was like adamant about painting a tree painting, and I was like, making some trees, I want some trees in my house. And I was like, yes, I started painting the trees. And I was like, not happy.
Yeah.
Like I wasn't happy. And I was just like, but I want the trees. So I kept like forcing it. And I'm like, but you're not happy with that, you know? And it's like, so like those little signals, right? It's like we get to learn those signals through that process. But then it's like we fight that. But I was like, no, I still want those trees. I'm going to make it happen. But then I had to really give in and was just like, no, you're not really happy with where it's going. So where does it want to go? Right? Where do you really, really want to go? And I think that's through that, it's like we're constantly learning to tune back into our intuition and back into spirit and back to our connection with our soul, because we're always just like, hold on, something's not feeling right now. Where is it that I really, where am I being called? Where do I really want to go? What's coming through in that moment?
It feels like creativity and the way that you're expressing it, the way you're teaching it, teaches courage. It teaches courage to ask those questions, not only of your artwork, but of life. You know, I think certainly from this experience of doing interviews and exploring the story and the narrative of burnout and how we're collectively rewriting it, I think, you know, one of the key things is being rigid, you know, being kind of rigid in your life and taking everything so seriously. Whereas I think what I'm hearing from you and what I really love is this act of allowing creativity to guide you, is teaching us to be more courageous as women and as people in the world.
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah. I love that.
So there's something, again, from your website that I read that was so empowering, and it speaks to this, and I wanted to share it with our community members. So you talk about, Christina, you talk about intuition providing sharp clarity, decisive action, and how it opens up doorways to seize successful opportunities, to be in the flow of continuous expansion. And then you say here, we are the modern day warriors. Wow, that's empowering. So, for someone in our community who is wanting to get in touch with you and to sort of understand more about the work that you do, so speak a little bit more about the resources that you have available, and how can people find you?
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, modern day warriors, we sure are. Right? It's like, because I think like when you're listening to your intuition, you're going into the unknown. You're really like, again, like you said, that courageousness. So my website is iliveintuition.com. And I do have a couple of resources there. So I have a quiz that is what's your intuition superpower.
Yeah.
And we talked about briefly about the clairs. So that quiz is to help you figure out what is your main way of receiving intuitive guidance. So there's 4 different clairs that I use. I mean, there's actually more than 4 clairs, but to me, I feel like the clairaudience, claircognizance, clairsentience, and clairvoyance are sort of the main ones that we really sort of naturally tap into every single day. So there's that quiz, and then you'll find out what your clair is, as well as there's also a free video training as well. So if you decide to sign up for the video training, which is totally free, and then I'll also invite you into my list as well, that you can get the free, there's like a 4-part video series that talks about all the different clairs, and then like ways that you can strengthen it, and different exercises and things like that. So
amazing.
It's a little mini class training.
That's fabulous.
And so there's that. And then I also have my psychic meditation download as well. So a little meditation to awaken your psychic abilities. And that's just like a really short meditation to help you tune in, help you ask questions, help you really connect in with your inner voice. And with that, I always suggest that you listen to it like once a day, and you really kind of learn to sort of practice and give yourself that space to get quiet and to sort of start to tune in to your intuition in that way. Yeah. I've got
Wonderful.
those different resources on there.
Yeah, that's great. And we'll have all the links in the description below so that anybody can check that out. So we have a question that we're asking all of our guests, and we'd like to finish the interview with this. If you could send a supportive, loving message to your younger self from like 20 so years ago, what would you say?
I would tell myself, gosh, so much you want to tell yourself, right?
Yeah.
So much you want to tell yourself. But I would say, like, it's okay to take your time. Yeah. Like I would tell myself it's okay to take your time, to figure things out, to make mistakes, to it's okay to figure out what direction you want to go and to take your time with it. I think when we're so young, right? It's like I remember just like, even when I graduated high school and going to college, I was like, oh my God, I just need to know like what I have to do with my life. Jesus, I'm 18 years old. Like, come on. Right? Like, and it's just like, no, like it took me a long time and I was very distraught about that. Like I always felt behind. I always felt like, oh my God, like I don't know anything. So I would definitely tell myself that, like, it's okay. Like, it's okay to take your time and it's okay to take things slow.
Beautiful. I love that message.
Yeah. Thank you.
Oh, well, Christina, thank you so, so much for being here with us and for being part of this project and for sharing your beautiful wisdom and your insights with us. It's been such a pleasure.
Oh my gosh. Thank you. Thank you so much. I really enjoyed this conversation. Loved everything about it. So thank you.